Yeah. Back at it here. I'm hitting the Apex post race, Canadian Grand Prix post race show, joined by Vic and Vish. Vish, I put Vish and Nick together, and I made Vic. Hey, joined by Vic.
Vic.
What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Good. How are you, man?
It's better than Nish. I like Vic better than Nish. You know.
That's good. I like that better.
Hey, listen, exciting Grand Prix, exciting Canadian Grand Prix. We were all talking about it off, backstage. How we finally saw a nice battle, excuse me, for P1 and P2, which is what we have been missing since probably Bahrain. Yeah, since Bahrain, really, right? When they were kind of slugging it out with Verstappen and Leclerc. So it's been quite some time that we see a nice battle here towards the end. Listen, there's a lot of factors, obviously, that helped it out, but at the end of the day, that's racing, that's Formula One. So just happy that we were able to get that now in this race. Obviously the final is. No, I'm not. I guess I gotta fix that halo light that I have. That's terrible, bro. It's driving me crazy. But no, I am not a fan. Well, I mean, it depends. But anyways, I digress. Going back to it, yes. So a nice drive again by Max Verstappen, who leads the way, sits on the podium at P1. Then you've got Carlos Sainz with a brilliant drive as well, neck and neck with Verstappen towards the end, pushing him. And it was a great defense by Verstappen, but Sainz gets P2. Yeah, I was getting ahead of myself because I was so excited to announce who P3 was. Mr. Lewis Hamilton gets back on the podium, baby. So how excited are the Mercedes fans for that one, man? Big time drive by Lewis Hamilton as well. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. How you guys felt about the Canadian Grand Prix. We'll start off with you, Vish.
Yeah, no, I think you summarized a lot of it. I had the standings open and Formula1.com just crashed because I was going to show the race results. But yeah, it
crashed because Hamilton got back on the podium.
Maybe Tsunoda decided not to turn again. I don't know. But yeah, no, it was a good race. I think Ferrari, without their lead driver at the front, Sainz carried the flag well. That they couldn't ask for much more out of him on that race. They ended up with the early virtual safety car, which Checo caused, which we talked a lot about. Red Bull's reliability has improved. Well, it came back again here, which is something to watch because they're also going to be in line for engine penalties down the road as well. But that once they split strategies, it was hard to see who was actually in front because it was, all right, does everyone have to pit again? It never really settled in, and then the safety car finally kind of settled the race, and then you saw that wheel to wheel that wasn't there until the last 15-20 laps. So that safety car did reset everything, like you said. But before that, it was going to be, it was dicey because Sainz was actually leading before the safety car. He probably had to pit again, but overtaking was not that easy here. So if Max caught him with 10 laps to go, would he have been able to get it? You don't know. Obviously, once the safety car, he had to pit. So that to me, that the whole early virtual safety car mixed everything up, and then it was only at the end that they finally got in and you saw the pace. And you mentioned Hamilton, and I don't know where that pace came from because he wasn't on Sainz's rear, but he was closer to Sainz than Russell was to him, which in that last stint. So when they told him don't worry about the tires, you can run them into the ground, he definitely did. So to me, it was exciting to see, and Carlos just can't catch a break. All he did was one little, of course, Max
just
is
right?
Max is the champion for a reason, right? But you just run a little wide somewhere. All he did was Max was perfect. I don't think people realize how hard it is to drive inch perfect.
Yeah, especially when you have someone right on your ass.
Yeah, well, the guy in front has to. The guy in back can make a mistake and catch it back up because they get the DRS and you get bunched back up. The guy in front cannot make a mistake, and he drove, after the safety car every lap perfect. So
the only the advantage that they have by being in front is the clean air, right? That's really the only thing. Aside from obviously if they've got the
they do have the clean air, so it's definitely it helps in the twisty parts. But what ends up happening is when you're the trail car, if you make a mistake and drop back, because the car in front's holding you up, you basically make that time back up. And we saw that a few times where Sainz would drop back a second, he's able to catch it back up.
Right.
In the front, you make that one mistake, now you're in second. So
Sure.
it's a completely different challenge, and he drove perfect on every lap. He didn't make a single mistake, and that's why he won.
Nick, talk to us.
I mean, today this race it was really exciting. Lots of overtakes, which are always fun to see. Which people don't really expect from this track, except like in the straights. But there were quite a few overtakes. On like one of the final turns, like that big U-turn. There were quite a few of them there. So that was nice to see. Just like full competitive racing all around from top to bottom. I really enjoyed it. Of course, Max led a masterclass yet again in this race, and his defense against Carlos Sainz, Vish said it perfectly. He was just absolutely flawless in the last 15 laps, and Sainz, even though he pushed as hard as he could, Max never gave him an inch, and so he's had to settle for second place. But Sainz had a fantastic race today too. Lewis Hamilton also had a really solid late race. Leclerc coming all the way back from 19th to finish in the top 5. Amazing drive by him to at least salvage like another 10 points for Ferrari and gain some points back in the constructors, which is important for them. So yeah, I mean, Stroll also finishing in the top 10 in his home race. That's also pretty good for them, considering how disappointing both Canadian drivers have been so far this year. So him to at least get a point, is pretty respectable. And yeah, I mean, disappointing for me and McLaren. I don't think they got any points today. So, it's whatever at this point. But yeah, overall, it was a great race.
So that's what I wanted to bring up something regarding Leclerc. Like, are you guys? Is it impressive what he did as far as a recovery race, starting in 19th and finishing back up in 5th? How do you feel he drove today? Because I mean, I think he drove really well. I mean, at one point, I think all Ferrari fans were frustrated that he couldn't get past Ocon. He couldn't overtake him at one point. And I know he had a little issue with his back tires. He wasn't able to get some grip, but Ocon drove really nice there to kind of defend him as well. So a little bit of both things. But how do you guys feel about the drive that Leclerc had coming back all the way from 19th?
Yeah, no, it was impressive in that it was not easy to overtake. And I also think, they said they took some downforce off. The Ferrari did not look good at passing. I'm looking for a better way to describe that, but it just didn't appear to have the pace and on the straight line. You saw Carlos struggle with that a little bit at the end too. Just did not. It needed a little bit more. But he. And then, Ferrari screwed up his pit stop and dropped them into a DRS train where if they'd done it cleanly, would have come out in front of it. So obviously the safety car then bailed him out a bit. But he pretty much, I mean, he was definitely faster than Russell overall. He could have potentially finished ahead of him. Maybe even Hamilton, although Hamilton seemed to be possessed today. I don't know what that was, but yeah. That car is not that good. So he was like a throwback. It was a throwback performance for him. So I don't know if Leclerc, but I think there was possibly one spot higher, but that's it. And after that safety car, you got to remember both Alpines had fresh tires. So and they've been quick all weekend. Obviously the Ferrari's a better car, but those are not easy overtakes. And I think almost we forget like how good those overtakes are, because he did it so easily. Like he dusted the both Alpines quickly and then kind of sat in a gap. He closed up a little bit on Russell, but couldn't catch him. And then he kind of just, especially with the Ferrari reliability, preserve the car, get the sun across the finish line, take 5th. But that should have been harder to pass the Alpines than it was. But I thought he drove really well. And one of the big things when you're doing those recovery drives is when you get stuck, because you're going to get stuck at some point. You're going to run into someone on fresh tires, or someone that's quick in a straight line, or a DRS train or something. Yeah. It's just being patient with it. He didn't, and Leclerc in the past has had impatient issues where he's just like, and he didn't do that today. He stuck with it, and he just worked his way through the field to 5th. And it's a great recovery. I think ironically, if you look at, I'll share it again, but if you look at the top, 5, I think every one of those teams would have taken that result. to start the to start the
Yeah.
day. Like if you told them, I mean, I'm sure Red Bull would have liked Checo to finish, but definitely like with Checo messing up qualifying, they were like Max needs to win the race. That's their goal. They got it. I think a 2.5 Ferrari would have killed for that coming into the day, knowing that Leclerc had to drive all the way through the field. And then, Mercedes will definitely take a 3-4. So it's kind of one of those weird things where, and then Alpine 6-7, like
That's a great.
That's crazy.
Yeah, even Alfa Romeo 8-9. You got like the top Stroll will definitely take a point. Like the top 10's got to all be just ecstatic with where they finished.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, I saw something that we hadn't seen in Leclerc, I think, because I don't want to say he hasn't had to face adversity because he definitely has, but I think this is a little bit different, right? What he had to face today, like coming from all the way in the back of the grid to finish fifth. I think we saw a little bit, and you said it, Vish, like we saw a different drive from him today. He wasn't pressing, but he was driving hard. He was driving aggressive. He was making the right moves, I guess you can say, right? With the overtakes, obviously easy overtakes, but I still think still feel like he was driving the way that maybe he should have been driving all year. And I think that if you see that type of growth, or if you continue to see that from Leclerc, then you're going to get right back in the championship race. Is it a little too late now? I don't know. We'll see, right? I mean, there's still a lot of season left, but I think that what we saw from him today, warrants a kudos to him, because he definitely showed that maybe he's growing up a little bit, because at times he would bitch and complain too much and then kind of get into his own head and not drive the way that he could. So I think that that's what I was most impressed by. I'm not saying that he was a driver of the day, but he definitely drove a hell of a race today, considering where he started and the way that he drove. I think it was really nice to see.
Yeah.
We can go to.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick. No, go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, for Charles, pretty much for him to start all the way back in 19th, but then have the attitude of, okay, be aggressive, but also kind of take what the race gives you, as far as overtaking or staying back and then overtaking them on the next lap, just things like that, simple things like that. I felt like it was good for him overall to kind of have this sort of race where the odds are pretty stacked against him for finishing in the podium or in the top 5. So, the fact that he was able to, pretty much overtake 14 different cars and come into, 5th place, I thought that was really, really impressive. And so I think, and if he can kind of keep this attitude going forward, then I think we might have a more competitive battle for the Drivers' Championship.
There's a whole nother show happening in our chat. If you guys look over
I know.
there.
What the hell? I'm just reading it now.
What is happening?
Holy crap.
So there's discussions on what century Verstappen's looks belong in, as well as his lisp. Apparently, Manny gave Hamilton a back massage. There's all sorts of stuff happening over there that we should probably just steer clear of and stay on topic. But just so you guys know, I am reading it, but I didn't feel like it was appropriate to kind of splash that across while we were making serious F1 points. But
Yep.
We'll see you guys.
Fernie, Jack, and Gus are probably our 3 greatest fans, right? Like we feel you there, man. We appreciate it. Keep going. Keep talking all these. I don't know. Do whatever you want on that chat, bro. I love it. This is awesome.
That's great.
Oh man, you know who I miss? I miss Alex. Where's Alex?
I mean, it's too early for Alex.
I know, you're right.
We need another middle of the night race. They're going to Singapore, right? I think that's where we can have late nights with Alex.
Late nights with Alex, man. Oh man. Anything that did surprise you guys before we head on out of here? Anything that did surprise you guys in this race?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily surprised me, but we've talked a lot about like how Zhao actually looks like he has pace and kept getting bad luck. This time the Alfa Romeo finally finished, and he finished 9th. And frankly, I think there was the whole for whatever reason Ocon was slow and kind of held up Alonso, which held up the Alfa Romeos, and they ended up in finishing right on top of each other. It would have been interesting to see if I think he could have taken Bottas, to be honest. there, but Bottas was stuck behind Alonso, was stuck behind Ocon, but I was impressed with him, although I've been kind of talking him up a little bit, so a little bit of but I do think hopefully this, starts to get him heading in the right direction. On the other end, the Haas, they both got into Q3 and just complete disaster. And this is partially, this is partially, partially it's Mick had, just had a car issue, but Magnussen he was not the qualifying was screwed up. It was wet. The field was jumbled. You got to know who you're racing. You didn't see Alonso I'm going to throw it in there against Max in turn one. He knows he's not keeping up with him. And Madison tried to throw it in against Hamilton and wrecked his race essentially. At that point, you're not going to be Hamilton. So just slot in behind him, maximize your points, and that was a mistake. There was no way the Haas the field got jumbled because of the weather. It wasn't like Haas found some pace.
Right.
So, know where you are. And if he had just managed that race, there was an opportunity to get some points. Instead, he broke the end plate. Eventually, he was forced to pit. The FIA made him. So that Haas just kind of threw. And then, obviously, Mick, had an engine problem, but he sucks anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But, I mean, he's not good. And I'm sorry, but, this whole – if his last name wasn't Schumacher – he's been terrible, and he has. And they were when he had the reliability issue, and what will it take for him to score a point? Not suck. I mean, I'm sorry. He's usually finishing 15th. He's not he just missed out. He is way back. His teammate has a ton of points, and it's not because of reliability. It's because he's not that good.
Right.
So we got to have a talk about that, man. And his last name, without that last name, he's probably not in that car anymore. He's been that bad, and now that his teammate's not Mazepin, it's showing up in a big way.
Yeah,
very
but
true.
Also, every time he has had an opportunity for points, whether it was in Miami or whether it was here in Canada, he's run into some bad luck. Whether it was Vettel crashing into him, or stuff with the engine. So I mean, it's not like he hasn't had an opportunity for points and just has sucked like Latifi. But he's not really that much ahead of him as far as Latifi goes in driver ability, in my opinion.
I don't know, man. I just don't think he's got it. I don't think he's an F1 driver right now, and
he's well off the pace of his teammate on a consistent basis, and that's a car that's borderline scoring points, and he's not borderline anything. He's if you look at his results, 16, 17, 15. Meanwhile, Jack is commenting on Jazz disappearing off the screen here.
Did I disappear?
Yeah, we can't see you. Can you see us? Yo.
Oh God.
All right, now you're back. Now you're back.
There you are.
I don't know what's going on. There we go.
There we
go. Jack, I love it that you love me so much, man. You worry about me. I love that, man. I appreciate it.
I'm worried you're gonna conk out like you did earlier this week, and you're gonna try and make me host, because that's not something I want to be doing.
All right, then. In the spirit of things, any last words before we get on out of here?
Driver of the day for me was Carlos Sainz. Had a hell of a race, pushed Max to the limit, but Max didn't make any mistakes, and so he had to settle for P2, but still a hell of a race by him.
Cool. I'll keep my driver of the day for Wednesday, though. Make it exciting.
Yeah,
we'll
tease that. So at least there isn't a race next week, so we can really dig into this race on Wednesday. So
absolutely will. Make sure everybody keeps it locked here every Wednesday night. And we'll be on at 9:30. I almost got confused with Six Rings. We'll be on at 9:30.
No, but show up at 8:30, watch Six Rings, and then just go right into this.
Absolutely. If
Jazz and I have to sit there for 2 hours, you should too.
I agree. 9:30 p.m. hitting the apex here on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at F1_5 Reasons and on Instagram whenever we decide to update it at hitting the apex 5R. On Instagram as well, but make sure you guys keep it locked here every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. and also Sunday race days for the post race hitting the Apex show. Thanks a lot, Vish. Thanks a lot, Nick, and we'll see you guys Wednesday night.